Tonight I'm going to talk to you guys about generational gaps in the workplace. They can cause conflict, but through acknowledgement of differences in each generation, the types of conflict generated by those differences, and the willingness to work together with intentional understanding, the generations can both empower each other and promote success for oneself and the company. Have you ever worked with someone and thought, wow, that person is so out of touch or so old-fashioned? Or maybe you've thought, these young people have no clue about the real world. Welcome to generational divisions in the workplace. I've been in the workplace for 30 years and have dealt with each of the 5 generations that are still working in the workplace. I'm going to start by telling you about the generations and give you some characteristics of each one. The first generation is traditionalist. You're not going to see many of these in the workplace anymore, but it's still in the research. These are 77 to 97. They are dependable, straightforward, tactful, and very loyal to their companies. They have a traditional worldview. They are obedience over individualism. They're very loyal to their companies, and they take pride in that. Their age equals seniority, and that can kind of have the mindset of being superior over the younger generations. They feel more experienced. The next one is baby boomers. This is 58 to 76. They are work-centric, they're optimistic, they're competitive, and they're team-oriented. By work-centric, that means they take pride in work too. The harder that you work, the more they think you have merit in a company. Gen X would be 42 to 57. It's the work hard, play hard generation. They believe in working hard, but they also find a lot of merit in spending time with their family members and friends. So they have a mindset of working hard, playing hard. Their achievement comes from, their hard work, and also their independence. They can be skeptical, but they are also flexible and informal. They favor diversity. That's the first generation that started moving toward diversity. They're quick to move on from jobs that they don't feel provide for them or their families. And they are resistant to change if it affects their personal lives. They don't want to give up their personal life for work. They want to have a balance. Millennials are your 22 to 41-year-olds. They're competitive, they're civic and open-minded, and they're achievement-oriented. And then finally would be Gen Z, and they are more globally minded. They have an entrepreneurial spirit, they're progressive, and they're a little less focused. They self-identify as the digital device addicts. They value independence, and they prefer to have a work-fun life balance. They're like the generations before them, but they take it a step further and want to have fun in the work environment also. So those are the generations and the characteristics that define them that can help you. Those are just some basic characteristics that might help you understand each generation. Now we're going to talk about the conflicts between the generations in the workplace that can arise from their differences. Okay, types of conflicts between generations in the workplace. There's 3 major conflicts: behavior-based, value-based, identity-based conflicts. Behavior-based conflicts, typically the biggest one you're going to find are communication preferences. The younger generations prefer messaging, email, anything digital. They don't have much time for wanting to sit and talk face to face. The old generation believes that there is merit to speaking one-on-one, face to face. They like to get the facial cues. They like to maybe have more of a relational experience in their businesses. The younger generation is more about getting it done quickly. So with that, there's a little bit of tension, and the older generation typically does not interact with the younger generation in a business. They kind of the two generations don't communicate. And if you want to have a thriving business and all of your employees happy and it to be cohesive, it's important for you to learn each other and learn the differences. So there's also a behavior-based conflict that is feedback. Older generations typically don't need a whole lot of feedback. They like it, but they don't need it a lot. You find with millennials and below, which would be millennials and Gen Z, they like constant reinforcement from their management. And they're used to having that quick, just constantly having communication. So that's a problem for the older generation versus the younger generation in the workplace. The next conflict would be value-based conflict. That's a work-centric mentality versus a work-balance mentality. A lot of times you'll hear the older generation say things like, they are not even working, or the younger generation, they'll be like, they are so staunch and they never have fun. The older generation was raised that you worked. That's what made you who you were. If you were a hard worker, that made you a good person. So that bleeds over into the workplace. The younger generation has a mindset that work is work, but it's not their life. They want the work-life balance and they want to enjoy their life as well. Identity-based conflict would be the last thing. That's going to be your generation biases and the views of one's identity. This stems from people just want to belong to a group. Everybody wants to belong to something. So the generations typically take pride that I'm the Gen X generation, or I'm Gen Z, or I'm millennial. And that interaction and comparison of themselves causes some conflict in the workplace. The older generation feels like they have paid their dues, and the younger generation feels like maybe they aren't as reverenced or respected. The last thing that I'm going to talk about in dealing with conflicts and generations in the workplace are solutions for promoting unity among the generations. And this is something that you should strive to do in your workplace. The main thing that we can do is acknowledge differences while celebrating strengths. If you acknowledge differences in people and allow them to be who they are and celebrate their strengths, that helps the company and that promotes unity in the workplace. Also, focus on the why. The why is a unifier. If you focus on the what, that can be divisive. So you focus on the why, what your purpose is, why you're there, and why you want your company to be successful. And then agree on how to accommodate, I'm not sure why that did that. Agree on how to accommodate each other's differences and maximize each other's strengths. In conclusion, generational gaps in the workplace can cause conflict, but through acknowledgments of strengths of each generation and the willingness to work together with respect and humility, the generations can empower each other and promote success for the company.